touching heaven from one of China's most sacred mountains, getting schooled by a master silver maker, and meandering through an ancient market. It's all in this episode of Travelogue. We'll explore the outskirts of Dali in Yunnan, hiking Jizu Mountain's holy paths, shopping in Xinhua, and soaking in the sun and history of Shashi. I don't know if you've ever imagined what it might be like to be in heaven, but I think this is as close as it gets. We're here and dawn is breaking on the top of Jizu Mountain at Jinding Temple, and I think, as you can see around us, this is perhaps why it's one of the most sacred sites in the Buddhist world. Hi and welcome to Travelogue. I'm Katrina Yu.
晚上来的还是早上爬到山上来的？
晚上来的。
晚上就开始爬了。几点开始爬山呀？
这就是2点半。是啊。
这边是不是香火特别旺，特别灵啊？
啊，是啊。
那许愿了吗？啊？许愿了吗？
太阳出来了就许愿嘛。
太阳出来了就许愿是吧？哦，好的好的，谢谢你们啊。
I feel and look tired after our 5 a.m. start, but that's nothing compared to the journey these pilgrims began at 2:30. But then, the moment we were all waiting for.
After waiting patiently in the freezing cold and quietly on top of this temple, all of a sudden these pilgrims have come to life and you can really see the excitement, all because the sun has finally risen and they're taking photos and waving incense around and it smells beautiful, and just look at the view. It's an amazing thing.
Have you ever seen something that was so surreal that you had to keep on reminding yourself that you were awake and not dreaming? That's what watching the sunrise from Jizu Mountain feels like, and it's one of the reasons why so many make the trek up here to see it. Jizu Mountain is located in Beijing County in Dali's northwest. The name Jizu literally means chicken foot, and it's called this because the bottom of the mountain range is shaped like a cock's claw. But while its title seems pretty mundane, its reputation certainly isn't. Jizu is one of China's 5 Buddhist holy mountains, and Jinding, one of its most famous temples, sitting on the mountain's highest peak. For almost 1,300 years, pilgrims have been coming to this so-called golden summit to make offerings, pray, and meditate. But you don't have to be a follower of Buddhism to appreciate its significance.
Oh, the sun on my skin feels so good, and now my fingers are starting to get their feeling back. Earlier, they were going really numb. See, the thing is, we had to leave a lot of our luggage, including my gloves, at the bottom of the mountain. We drove up the hill, and then we had to stop and take a chairlift, so we could only bring what we could carry. After we took the chairlift up, we took what seemed like hundreds of steps, and then more steps to get to Jinding Temple, and just makes me think, pilgrims have been coming to this site for hundreds of years. I can only imagine the hardship and the trouble they must have taken to get here, to get to this beautiful spot, but they really would have been rewarded.
There are different forms of Buddhism, and Jizu Mountain embraces all sects, including Tibetan Buddhism. It's considered one of the 3 sacred places that pilgrims should travel to in order to be spiritually qualified. Many Tibetan devotees make their way to Jizu Mountain at least once in their lifetime. While we're here, they're the most prominent group of pilgrims we meet. The men tell me they've come all the way from Sichuan province, northwest of Yunnan.
Now we're leaving Jinding Temple, which is more than 3,000 meters above ground, and heading downhill to see if we can meet a very holy monk.
We take a path covered with prayer flags. They represent peace, compassion, strength, and wisdom. It's believed that as the wind blows through them, it blesses the land, spreading these virtues with it. I hear our next destination before I see it. When we arrive, I look at the faces of the men chanting, wondering if any of them is the monk we've been told about.
Well, we've been asking a few locals, and it turns out that the holy monk we were searching for is in fact not here. So his whereabouts remain a bit of a mystery, but we have stumbled across an extremely holy place. This is Huashomen, and it's considered one of the gates of Buddhism, and pilgrims have been coming here for generations because this was a place where one of Buddha's 10 disciples came himself. You know, one of the things that I love about this place is the sounds of the mountain. It's these prayers that the monks are chanting. It's the sound of the bells and the drums, and it's also the sound of the flapping of these Tibetan prayers against the wind. It's not silent, but at the same time, it's very calming.
We continue our journey downwards, asking directions along the way.
Now we're heading to have lunch all the way at the bottom of these stairs, and look, don't you think we're gonna deserve it after that hike down? I'm just glad we had a chairlift to take us up, but I have nothing to complain about. I only have a backpack to carry, unlike a camera who's got some heavy gear.
And for the record, I did offer to help carry some things. Anyway, after a hearty meal, we're all ready for more exploring, and thankfully, this time on flatter ground. Our next stop makes quite an impression.
More than 1,000 years ago, there were hundreds of temples that littered Jizu Mountain. Today, there are only about 20 left. But you don't have to go all the way to the top of the mountain to find that peace of serenity. This temple caught our eye halfway down the hill, and it's called Jizu, which roughly translates as celebrating the holy. Now, the story of this temple is that there was a monk who lived to be more than 100 years old, and his students went all over Southeast Asia. And to this day, they still return to pay tribute to him and to this place.
Jizu Temple was built during the Ming Dynasty. It's the biggest and one of the most well-preserved on Jizu Mountain. In the 1980s, it was listed as a major cultural relic and is a protected site.
I love the rich smell of the incense. Now, pilgrims have been coming to Buddhist temples like these for generations and offering burning incense sticks as a part of their prayers and to pay respect to the place and to Buddha. Now, because of all the temples that once littered Jizu Mountain, it got this reputation as being a scented wonderland, and with this rich smell, it's little wonder why. I don't know what it would have been like those hundreds of years ago, but just smelling this now, I can close my eyes and really get a sense of what it might have been like.
As well as ancient buildings, you can also visit modern temples currently being developed. I think these sacred sites of both past and present will ensure that Jizu Mountain is a place of peace and prayer for many more years to come.